Hey, it's Stephanie, your empowered creativity coach, and I wanted to share with you a few takeaways from a conference that I attended this morning. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend the whole thing, but luckily I can go watch all the videos. The Work Matters conference was today, and workmatters.org is an organization that is headquartered up in Northwest Arkansas, and their focus is to build up faith-based leaders. And they have just amazing articles and blog posts and everything that come out, but then they have training and all kinds of things. And their focus is faith in the workplace. And it's how do you integrate your faith into everything that you do at work. And it's not about evangelizing from your desk and things like that, but just how do you walk out your Christian life in the secular world at work. And so it's really awesome. I get their, actually in Messenger, I get their daily not podcast, but their daily blog posts, reminders, and things like that, so that I can just kind of stay in tune as well. And so they had their conference up in Northwest Arkansas today, and I wasn't able to go be there in person, but the monthly lunch that I help to put on at my church, we have a monthly Faith at Work business lunch that we do. And so several of us had talked about hosting this simulcast ticket. And so some of the other ladies and gentlemen who help run those monthly lunches put this event on today, and it was really awesome to walk in that room this morning and see that there were about 60 business leaders there to learn about how to walk out their Christian faith just in the regular world and in the workplace. And so I wanted to share with you a few takeaways that I have from one of the speakers in particular, and his name was Justin Whitmel. I'm going to get this right. Justin Whitmel Earley. And he wrote a book called The Common Rule, and it's about daily habits. And it was really inspiring. He has a really intense story of being a Christian for most of his life, and going into adulthood as a Christian and actually working as a missionary overseas, and then seeing a need that in the legal realm. And so he decided to come back to the United States and went to law school and became a lawyer. And so then getting into a law practice and working in a really intense corporate law firm, he had a mental just panic breakdown. All of a sudden, anxiety overtook him. And as he learned to come out of that, it was, obviously many months and, over a year-long process of figuring out what was wrong and what got him there, and how, and even reconciling that as a Christian of, how I've got Jesus, and it's all about his peace, and why don't I have peace? And as he walked out trying to learn what it was that had changed for him, he said he realized that while he had all of Christ in him and knew from the biblical standpoint how to have peace, he was walking out in expectations and habits and activities in his job as a lawyer, trying to meet the expectations of the world. And so he, was obviously, tied to his phone, clients that needed answers immediately, so he thought, right? And so his testimony was really quite moving for me, having come out of the corporate world and kind of I never got to that point of the anxiety, but definitely got to the point where work was more important. All the other things were more important than life and my health and everything. And man, if you go back and look at some pictures of me from really like just 4 or 5 years ago, I think you can really see it on my face, just how unhealthy I was. You can see it just in those pictures. I feel like I can look side by side at some of those and say, I don't even know who that person is. And a lot of that has to do with putting down some of those expectations of the world and realizing that your health and your life and your family really are more important, because if you don't have those, you can't perform well at all in your job, no matter how good you think you're performing by being on call all the time. And so his talk really had to do with daily habits that he needed to change so that he could come out of that anxiousness and realize that, one of the things I love what he said was he realized that, like, he had a newborn child, a newborn son, and he was woken up one morning because the baby was crying. And instead of immediately getting up and going to help to, figure out what was wrong with the baby and comfort the baby, his immediate thing was he picked up his phone and he was looking at, well, let me check real quick, what's going on in my email. And he realized he was like 5 minutes later, he's responding to one of his clients and the baby's still crying. And he realized my priorities are off. And so one of the things that I said, I love it because he gave a definition of a habit. And he said, a habit is a little action we do over and over without thinking. And then he said, but more than taking up our time, habits form our identity. And I had to really think about that, but man, that's so right. I mean, those things that we do without thinking, that we have allowed ourselves to get into, and how they form our identity. So he was talking about these habits that he'd gotten into of making sure that, that everything else was taken care of, and that he was on task of work, and all of those things had become his identity. It was what he found his importance in, and not his family, and not taking care of his family, not taking care of himself. And it was really moving to think about that, because I know I have been there in the past as well. And knowing that I had just put so many other things ahead of my family. And the Holy Spirit really spoke to me at one point, and he told me, you got to lay it all down. Not that I had to quit my job, but I was doing my job and I was working for a political campaign, and I was running a business. And he basically said, like, you have to quit the campaign, and you need to quit your network marketing. But I was in network marketing at the time. He said, you need to stop that for a while and just focus on family. And it was a big habit to break, because I was so used to being tied to my laptop, even though I was sitting there and family was around me, husband's on the other end of the couch and Bailey's there playing, and I'd have my computer and I'd be working in the evenings on the other two things, not my day job, right? And I realized, like, I had to really change my thought process when Bailey would walk up to me and say, hey mom, can we do such and such? Will you play with me with this? Or can we paint? Or can we do this? And it was an immediate reaction to say, well, hold on, let me finish this, because that had been my reaction for years. And to realize that I could just say, yeah, and put my computer down, because all I was doing was probably scrolling Facebook or reading somebody's blog post or something like that, and say, yeah, we can do that, honey. And then just do it and get up. And it was really freeing to know, and it felt so good. And I realized how much I'd missed by putting her off and saying, no, well, let me finish this. Oh, I got to do this email first. Oh, I got to make this happen first. And so what Justin was talking about with changing those daily habits, he said, he kind of made a list of, like, what's the first thing I do in the morning right now? And how do I change that to something more positive? One of the things he said, that a part of the reason why we form these habits is so that our brain can be focused on those higher thinking activities that really do require some more brain power, right? And so it's how we can get in our car and we can drive home and we don't remember how we got there, because our brain just did it in the background and told us, turn here, turn there, go straight, turn here, stop. And it's because, those are then habits on how we get home. And he said, that's great if it's positive, but it's not so great when it's a bad habit. And then he was talking about how our heart follows our habit. And so he said, you can know in your head that you want to work out. You can look at the habit that's, I'm going to hit snooze instead of get up and go work out. And he said the habit is going to override the thought, the idea in our head of what we want to be doing. That habit is going to override it every time. And so our heart's going to follow that habit instead. So we have to make a conscious effort to change the habit. Anyway, it was really, really, it was really good, and has made me decide, okay, that's something I'm going to spend some time over the next couple of weeks really looking at. Or what are some of those other habits? Like, I've broken some pretty bad habits that had me in a really bad place physically and mentally and emotionally and everything for a while, several years ago. And I broke several of those, but there's some other ones that I know that I probably the best way to figure out what it is going to be like ask my husband or something like that, because I probably may not be able to recognize it myself as to what it is, or I'm going to have to spend some time in prayer and ask the Holy Spirit, reveal to me some of these habits that I need to break. What is holding me back? What's keeping me from doing what I know is right or what is good, because I'm doing something that's comfortable and it's just because it's the way I've always done it and it's a habit. So that's a challenge for me going into these next couple of weeks based on that. And I'm definitely going to get his book. His book it's called The Common Rule. And again, his name is Justin Whitmel Earley. And it was really good. So I hope this is helpful to you, and I hope that it was thought-provoking to you. I'd like to know from you, are there some habits that maybe you've recognized in the past? You're like, man, I saw that, realized I had to change it. And I changed it to this. So you can kind of just say this became that from a habit standpoint. I'd love to know, or maybe you realize as I've been talking, something's come to mind, and like something keeps repeating in your head. And it's like, oh, maybe I need to look at this habit that I have and see how I might need to change that. Let me know. I'd love to have that conversation with you. So yeah. It was really good. I'm so glad that I went out there to the Work Matters conference, and definitely go check out their website as well. It's workmatters.org. Tons of great information on how you can integrate your faith into your daily work. I'll talk to y'all later.